are involved with your practical work, you have been involved in the conceptual work. My question here would be similar. Are you satisfied, and are you particularly satisfied with the engagement of business in making those goals a reality?
I would say that the answer to the second question is I am very satisfied that there are more businesses more involved in trying to figure out practical, affordable, and sustainable ways to not only meet but to maintain the Millennium Development Goals than we could have predicted 10 years ago. That's the good news. I'm concerned about something else. I'm concerned that both businesses in this difficult environment and governments in this difficult environment will see the necessary investments in meeting these goals as somehow optional or one of those things that unfortunately need to be cut. And you and I were talking backstage about whether this will happen or not. I think it depends upon how central businesses and political leaders throughout the world see the meeting of the Millennium Development Goals. If you run a global corporation and you believe in markets and you believe that they promote democratic freedoms as well as economic prosperity, you have to be concerned about the continuing inequality in the world, not only because it makes you feel bad, but because it imposes very severe constraints on future growth. You should be concerned about the pace of climate change because if you look at Australia alone, it imposes very severe constraints on future growth. So what we have to do, I think, is to integrate creating these kinds of measures like the Millennium Development Goals of shared progress into the basic business plan. These things are no longer what you might call economic externalities. They have to be part of the core vision of what it is to run a business in a global society and what it is to run a responsible government. I'm very worried, for example, in the United States now, in the aftermath of these congressional elections, the majority party in the House seems to believe that the most important public policy we can possibly have is to give me another tax cut, and that the best thing we can do is to pay for it by getting rid of all foreign assistance, as if that were not part of our, not only our moral responsibility, but our own economic and social well-being over the next unforeseeable period of time. So this is something we need to talk about. I hope in the forum here, I hope there will be thousands of conversations about this. Everybody understands that you can't afford to keep doing this for a year or two, but to abandon this as a core part of making the global economy work in the 21st century would be a terrible mistake.
I would formulate it in the following way, as we did outside. Integrating external costs into the business model is not just a question of being socially oriented. It's a question long-term of competitivity and of survival. But let me shift to a more political issue. Bill, you were so close to reaching an agreement between Israel and Palestine. And now we see the events in Tunis, and probably matters will become much more complicated, much more dangerous. Would you like to share your ideas in this respect with us?
Well, first, I think we don't really know how the Tunisian process